Back in 2008, Fernando Torres became the first player to finish third behind both Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo in their era of Ballon d'Or dominance. He had scored 38 times for Liverpool since the start of the previous season, and 6 months earlier, his goal had ended Spain's 44-year wait to win an international tournament. And yet, he was uncertain whether he belonged in the same room as the finest footballers on the planet. So today, we are going to examine how good exactly was Fernando Torres. Unlike other footballers, Torres was not naturally drawn to football. His interest in the game only came about by watching anime series Captain Tsubasa, and he has said he only started playing because his brother Israel forced him. Even his affection for Atletico Madrid came relatively late. He attended his first game a 1-1 draw against Compostela with his grandfather Eulalio in 1995, not long before his 11th birthday. "I wasn't hooked when I left the stadium," he later admitted. "It was cold, there wasn't much excitement, and the flat atmosphere in the stands didn't help." But only 6 years later, he was the club's greatest hope while at their lowest ebb. With Atletico struggling to recover from relegation to the Segunda Division, Spain's second tier, Torres was fast-tracked into the first team to placate supporters. The press described him as a prodigy, a folk hero, a native son, and a messiah. He was 17. Once he had helped Atletico return to the top flight, Torres was named the club's youngest ever captain. Aged 19, he has said it was a responsibility he should never have taken on so young. He struggled to command authority over his elders, instead leaning heavily on the experience of teammate Carlos Aguilera. But this added burden did not stop him from scoring in double figures every season for Atleti. He stayed for 7 in total, far longer than many fans expected. Then came Liverpool, where Torres's career cleaved into two distinct halves. The first is filled with goals, individual, brilliant, and breathtaking goals. But then came the second half. He had already suffered persistent hamstring injuries in the spring of 2010 when he decided to undergo surgery on a knee injury in an attempt to be fit for the World Cup. He rushed back, struggled for form, was dropped by Vicente del Bosque after the quarterfinals, and then suffered yet another injury in extra time during the final. From there on, things were never quite the same. Torres's struggles to rediscover form and his anxiety to win trophies while still in his prime, combined with the disastrous ownership of Tom Hicks and George Gillett, to produce a messy Anfield divorce. The takeover by Fenway Sports Group in October 2010 could not salvage the situation, and it was reported in January that Torres had effectively handed in a transfer request. His own version of events is different though. He said wanted assurances from senior figures at Anfield that he was part of the club's future, but received none. He felt unwanted, ever doubting his ability. A lack of belief from those around caused him to move to Chelsea in a deal worth $50 million. But for someone of his nature, a big money move wasn't the best. A modest record of 45 goals in 172 appearances masks a collapse which saw Torres go from that blonde streak of goal-scoring menace and intent to a hollow, forlorn figure, ill-suited to the system and style of play around him, with his head hung low and shoulders buckling under the weight of expectation. It is rare for a player's misfortunes to be met with anything other than mockery in modern football, and Torres did not escape ridicule by any means. But there was also a genuine sadness about the speed and scale of his decline. It would be wrong to suggest Torres's post-2011 career passed without merit or achievement. He won much of his career silverware during those later years. He was named the top scorer at Euro 2012. He lifted his first trophy with Atletico in his penultimate game for the club. Ask Chelsea supporters, meanwhile, and they will forgive his underwhelming returns for the one goal that mattered most at the Camp Nou to book their place in that year's Champions League final. He announced his retirement from football in June 2019, having spent his final season playing with Sagan Tosu in Japan, the home of Captain Tsubasa. The previous summer, he had said goodbye to Atletico and to European football, signing off in typically self-effacing fashion with the words, "Thanks for so much, and sorry for giving so little." It felt like an unnecessarily modest farewell. Not only had Torres just won the Europa League with Atleti, but the money generated from his sale had kick-started a golden era in the club's history. This was a player who had won the World Cup and 2 European championships for his country, as well as a Champions League title abroad. He had become a legendary figure at Atletico and was once similarly idolized on Merseyside. He was briefly considered as one of the best in the world, behind only Messi and Ronaldo. But when you remember the player that Torres once was, it is hard not to agree that he could have been so much more. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.